So we're joined by some further recruitment and HR experts representing Hiscox, Jacobs, one of our previous event sponsors, obviously our headline sponsor today, Elbit as well. So we've got 3 of the team from Elbit joining us. So as with some of the panels earlier today, we've had quite a few questions submitted throughout the event and in the lead up as well. So I'm going to firstly ask everyone to just introduce themselves, the business, a bit about your background, and then I'll go to those questions and then we'll finally go to the audience for their questions as well. So Craig, you're at the top of my screen. Could we start with you?
Hello everybody, my name is Craig Ruff. I'm a resource manager for Jacobs. Jacobs is one of the world's biggest engineering consultancy solutions businesses. We're separated into 2 very distinct business units, Critical Mission Solutions, which looks after more of the sort of equipment infrastructure type stuff within defence, nuclear, technology type markets, and then our People and Places Solutions business, which is more of the built environment and infrastructure around transportation, etc. We're recruiting people across the whole of the UK at the moment. The main areas that we're recruiting into are Glasgow, Manchester, London, Bristol for the defence business, and other locations where our clients are located. So we are looking for people that have served within the armed forces that are wanting to transfer into either systems engineering, project management, project controls type opportunities. And really interestingly, we've just started up a new veterans page on our careers site, which hopefully will give you all a little bit more information should you require it. Thanks, Esme.
Fabulous, thanks Craig, and great to see you. Simon, can we come to you next?
Afternoon everybody, my name's Simon Wah. I'm the recruitment business partner for Hiscox Insurance for the UK. I also support Hiscox Technology for the UK and Europe. Hiscox is a commercial insurance business that supports any type of organisation, from a individual contractor or painter or decorator or tradesperson, right the way up to the hundreds of millions of pounds type organisations, both within the UK and across the globe. We have approximately 3,500 employees. They operate in sites within the UK. We have about 2,000 in York, Colchester, London, and a number of regional offices. Our aim and I suppose expectation in working alongside Esme and the Officers Association is to reach guys and girls like yourselves who are seeking management potential opportunities, who do not necessarily have insurance understanding or exposure or similar, but very simply we're looking for leadership potential for driving forward the next generation of underwriters, actuaries and insurers within our business. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you Simon. John Spence from CGI, can we come to you next?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm John Spencer, work as a recruitment manager for CGI. We are basically a global IT consultancy working across the full spectrum of IT, including sort of systems integration, managed IT services, along with sort of software systems and pure consultancy. Got around 6,000 members within the UK. We look to take on lots of individuals within the armed forces. We support them in a variety of roles, whether that be with a IT focus within critical infrastructure services or within cyber. But our aim is to support the transition that you guys have from military life into civilian life, and ensuring that we can give you the training and development required to make that successful transition.
Excellent, thanks John. I see Kevin, you're back online, hopefully you can hear us.
And I can hear you. That's a nightmare journey from hell, so I apologise.
No,
yes,
fantastic.
the reboot did work, so thank you, Esme.
Good, good. So next I'm going to hand back to the team at Elbit. So I believe we have Rhiannon, Matt and Gemma. Is everyone on the call?
Hi, yes, we are. I won't introduce myself because you've heard lots from me already, but my colleagues Gemma and Matt have joined. Gemma heads up our recruitment, so she's day-to-day involved in all of our actively recruiting roles. And Matt, you can talk a little bit about yourself there, Matt, but Matt is one of our employees who's come through the transition process as well.
Fantastic. So as you'll see, a really varied panel today, lots of different experiences and different backgrounds, which is fantastic. So we'll start with the questions that we've had in the lead up to the event. And I think the most popular one, and I know it's been a common thread throughout the day, but how has recruitment been impacted by the pandemic for you? Have there been any areas of particular growth or decline within your sector? Simon, can I put you on the spot and start with you?
Sure. So like everybody else, we're now still sat in our spare rooms 14 months later. And initially, month 1 and 2 of March 2020, April 2020, there was a complete pause. Everything was stopped. We had to go and assess what was going to be happening, what our forward planning was, what our future plan was, and how to readdress that in the ways of working, which was everybody went home and had to work from home. We had about 3 months off from any recruitment, and my team and the other guys and girls in the recruitment team went off into the business and experienced what it was like to actually work in the insurance side of things and dealing with claims and underwriting and such. And we came out more knowledgeable because we went and learned a little bit about the jobs that we hire for. Towards September time, we waited until after the summer holidays and such, and the kids had hopefully gone back to school. We started to look at hiring again, and it was a stepped change. We started at 50% strength, and then by Christmas time of 2020, we were back up to full 100% hiring rituals. That hasn't stopped through lockdown. We've onboarded very similar numbers over the last year. It's all been done virtually and remotely, which is a different alternative. We've got guys and girls who we've hired that have never been to our office. We've had people in on short-term contracts that have been our employees and have never been to an office and have now left the business. But in terms of numbers, we stayed stable. We stayed very much the equivocal number of people plus the hires we were planning to make, but in a completely and utterly remote environment. And at present, heading back to the office in the June, July months, we're going to see how that works from there onwards. Impact-wise, it's been challenging, but it's something we've worked around very, very rapidly. Luckily, technology's been on our side because we can work in a virtual manner.
Excellent, thank you. And Craig, how about you? Obviously, we're seeing a lot of good roles come through from Jacobs at the moment. Has it been a positive impact? Are you seeing lots of growth at the moment?
We are starting to see growth again. The timing right now, we've just come into obviously the new financial year for many of our client organisations, and we're starting to see some fairly significant increase in their budgets and their spend. So the demand is rising very, very quickly at the moment, and that's particularly within the nuclear sector, where obviously we have nuclear waste to continue to clean up, nuclear power stations to operate, decommission, and obviously there's the new build activity as well. We're also seeing that similar activity across the transportation sector. And in defence, obviously we've just been through the integrated review, which did have a very negative effect in terms of the numbers of people that we could bring into the business. But with the increased budget provisions that are now in place, we're now starting to see that growing quite quickly. So Jacobs as a business hasn't contracted. We were fortunate. We haven't experienced the growth that we have seen in previous years, but we're expecting August, September time to start seeing sort of 100% hiring activity, and we're on target to hire somewhere in the region of 2,500 people in the UK.
Thanks, Craig. So another question and a topic that's been touched on earlier today is around skills and experiences or qualifications that your industries are currently crying out for, and how do you think officers can fill these skills gaps? So can I go to the team at Elbit first? Matt, maybe we could start with you.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick one on that last question, though. You know, I joined Elbit 3 weeks before the first lockdown, and I think what you know, I reflect on now only a year into my second career, after 26 years in the army, is the support that was available to allow for career transition whilst during that quite tricky period. I'm happy to elaborate on that if need be. But I would say that the skills, the transferable skills and those which we're looking for around the company. I'm sure Rhiannon has touched on these, but it's a blend of company specific requirements, and of course in a high technology, largely defence facing company like Elbit, anybody coming from the MOD adds value immediately. But it's also the core skills that any company needs. And I would only echo the points made by OpenReach earlier, that many of the sometimes underestimated, just straightforward behaviours that are day-to-day life in the military are desirable and transferable. And the obvious one is that leadership doesn't stop when you finish commanding ships, planes, aircraft, and regiments. Even small teams in any sector of industry outside need a bit of that sort of experience. So always highly transferable.
Thank you. Kevin, is there anything further to add from you?
No, I would echo that. I think, so I think finally look at roles as an entry point at times, because certainly in terms of if you're ambitious, it's to find the right entry point, because I think actually if you then shine within that role and perform well, that opens up more opportunities for you, particularly in a larger organization. And I think don't undersell you. I mean, as I've interviewed people, I'm always amazed when I interview people who've been in the military, the breadth of jobs from running Colchester prison, for instance, in the army. I had a former colleague that did that for 2.5 years. I've come across, there are jobs I didn't know existed. But what you're looking for as an employer is, well, how would that translate across? Well, actually, the core skills of that are around leadership, budget management, deployment, logistics, and really, just have confidence, because actually, hearing all the employers on this call, we see the value of people who have had a services background, because you have got very transferable skills.
Thank you, really positive. So John, obviously you have a fantastic overview of qualifications and training. Are there any qualifications in particular that you would recommend to service leavers looking to break into the sector? Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
There we go. Look, I think in particular, I agree with the sentiment the guys have made there. It's about the right attitude, I think, is fundamentally, and the core skills that underline service individuals. I think that is absolutely huge for us as well. It's about having that aptitude to want to progress and develop yourselves. And we find that individuals that come from the forces and have got that background tend to progress and develop within our organisation a lot quicker, because they've had that exposure and that experience of leadership and management. I think, look, if you're talking to us generically as about a business, about skills that we're looking for and qualifications, we're always looking for people that have got strong DevOps, software development, automation, but that's not really relevant to this. I think in terms of where I see people sort of developing, I think cyber is a really key area that I'm seeing a lot of growth with service individuals, and a lot of strong careers developing from service people, that being things like sort of CREST, which is obviously sort of to do with pen testing, CISP, CIRA, CCP. Those are really key qualifications that we're starting to see more of from service individuals, and that really helps us, because cyber is becoming a hugely increasing, growing area of space defence intelligence within CGI. Cyber is part of everything that we do, and whilst we can put these individuals into, operational management roles, we're seeing a real sort of step towards cyber at the moment, and it's a really growing area, and one that we're seeing a lot of development with. So I think it's those qualifications in particular are particularly useful to CGI.
Brilliant, Simon. I see you nodding your head and you've got your hand raised as well. Is there something further from you?
Yeah, I suppose from a recruitment perspective, and certainly mimicking what John says and Kevin earlier, the qualifications that you're going to take to move into an outplacement environment when you choose to leave the military or when your service is up, it is a certificate. It proves that you've got to a certain grade or a certain level of understanding of project management, of logistics, of software engineering, maybe in John's situation. But what we always like to see is sort of true and tested examples of where you've used that capability, where you've used that project management methodology, where you've used your logistics and organizational capability, or lean working, or whatever it has, whatever it is in your background. Give us some real life examples of when that's been true. And you're going to have 10, 20, 30 years worth of military experience of project managing or coordinating or similar. A lot of the time, it's maybe not worded in the most relevant manner to then tie into the qualification you're studying. So if you can give examples, really poignant examples of what you've done within a project management lifecycle, or how you've organized logistics or numbers or transport or whatever it be, then use that certificate in that context with your skills and your experience. Because I've seen a number of service leavers who've had a brilliant career, lots of tours and places and things that they've done, and at the very top they just put Prince 2 certificate gained. And a little bit of context to that really helps, because we are all looking for those initial qualifications, and then behind that is your attitude and aptitude to fit our business needs. And whilst you may have 10, 20, 30 years of experience and a Prince 2 qualification or an agile certification or a nuclear submarine driving qualification, I'm not sure if they exist, what we are going to be looking for is whether that qualification and your aptitude and attitude fits the culture of our organization. And that for ourselves at Hiscox may be different to CGI, Jacobs and BT. It's not a one size fits all, but at least that stepping stone of the career, the qualifications and your approach to things may stand you in good stead when you're leaving the forces.
Thank you, Simon. That makes absolutely perfect sense. And Matt, I see you nodding your head as well. Is there something further to add?
Yeah, Simon's absolutely spot on, and I reflect on my past year as well. I've probably, in my past year, I've delved back to a position in my former military career that I hadn't expected to go that far back. So I think however long you have served, whether it be 10, 15, 25, 30 years, I think my advice would be that it's not about the last job you did in defence before you transition. It's about the breadth of your whole career. And Simon's description about adding context to it, adding relevance, and also not being sufficiently humble to dip back into an experience that you acquired when you were in a much more junior rank in the organisation than when you left is certainly something that I've found myself needing to do over my short time outside of the MOD.
Thank you. No, that's really good. Thank you. So we've had a couple of questions come in of a really similar nature, actually. So from Mark and from an anonymous attendee as well around age. So just to group them both together, they're both considering themselves slightly older service leavers, so in their 50s, and Mark has the opportunity to stay on until 60. Do you think that being an older service leaver puts you at a disadvantage when looking for a civilian role? Would Mark, for example, be better leaving at 55 rather than staying on until 60? What does the panel think? Who would like to start us off?
I had a really similar conversation with someone in an interview just yesterday around their age. And as HR professionals, you'll all know that we're not allowed to ask you about your age or your retirement plans or any of that kind of stuff. And he was really clear in the interview about exactly that. He was like, I'm this age, but I want to tell you what my plan is. I want to tell you how long I'm going to work for. I want you to be able to commit to me, etc. We did not ask any questions. We didn't prompt that. But in reality, when I think about the different people that we're recruiting, if you've got the experience that is going to match with what we're looking for, what we need from you, and you've got the attitude, you've got we look for a lot of enthusiasm and the kind of the passion to join the project or to join the role that you're applying for. If you've got that, your age is immaterial. And you know, there's so many benefits to actually having a wealth of experience behind you, that somebody who's coming straight from university, they'll have something else, but it won't be that same thing. So there isn't a right or wrong answer to it, but I do think that it's not a limitation to you if you are leaving at 60, for example.
Thank you. I think that's brilliant advice. So we've had a really interesting question actually come through from Lindsay. So we often focus on what skill sets we can bring to a civilian organisation. So flipping it on its head, are there any areas of aptitude that you see service leavers sometimes falling a little short, or what could they do with focusing on prior to leaving? Craig, can I put you on the spot and start with you?
You can indeed. Again, it's understanding and knowing what you want to go and do as your next step. That's the major thing. It's having come to a decision around the type of discipline area or role that you want to go and conduct. It's about going away, researching that role properly, understanding all of the core competencies that would sit behind that role, and then being able to adapt your CV, adapt the delivery of your conversations with hiring companies to make sure that those elements of your experience stand out. So it is, you know, really straightforward, but it's a big old thing, having that clarity around, I want to be a systems engineer or a project manager for the next 20, 30 years of my career. That's what we often find. We have found many people coming out of the armed forces in the past haven't quite been at that point where they have distilled exactly what they want to do, and that's where they've struggled to get through our process. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And thinking about that, Simon, Kevin, I'm sure you both see a lot of military CVs as well. I was wondering if you've come across any kind of, you know, no-goes or any tips that you would avoid or you would recommend people avoiding in their CVs. Simon, should we start with you?
Yeah, I would say that there's nothing that you should avoid in adding to a CV or telling us about your background. But one thing that's a trait through civvies and military individuals is the use of acronyms that mean absolutely nothing to people outside of the industry or the trade that you work within. If somebody put down a load of electrical engineering acronyms in front of me or mechanical engineering things, I'd have no idea what you're talking about. So keep those three-letter things out of your CV, or just use the full terminology. That's really, really important. I think in terms of aptitude or skill set that maybe service leavers fall short on, it's maybe not the way I would like to phrase this. It's coming into a less structured organization or a less structured business. The military is structured, regimented governance, and there are step-by-step pathways to a point in doing your job in a certain manner. Some of our roles and some of our business areas are a little more creative, I'm going to say, a little more non-linear in the way that something can progress or can be built, designed, engineered for our customers. And without that structure behind yourself as an organization, some service leavers have struggled in those roles, others have excelled. And in reality, it's a person by person choice. There's no one thing that I would say would be a major issue, but certainly if you are going out there, lose the acronyms and some of the military terminology, and work with somebody who you may know, who may be your friend, your neighbor, who is a civilian employee, and ask them to read your CV first of all, and ask them if they understand what you've actually done in the past. Really, really simple, straightforward stuff. And they'll tell you, they'll ask, what does this mean? And that will help you out greatly.
Excellent advice. Kevin, I see you nodding away there.
I Craig's point and Simon and actually Matt's point about, I think from a CV perspective, be clear about what an employer might want. So again, make it, at times you can't always talk about what you've done in the military. We've seen that in CVs where but there is a clear way of signaling what in the context of what you've been doing, so you can call out the skills. I think that's really important, and not necessarily overplay the jargon. I think the one thing I do see where people have struggled at times is that point. I think Matt made the point about dipping back into perhaps an earlier part of your career to bring forward skills that you haven't used for a while. because you often you've made it to a very senior position within the military. And again, that non-linear career point that Simon made is very valid. You might have an entry point that you might think, well, actually, you know, should I be more senior? Should I have more people working for me? And that isn't always the measure of success in the private sector. So it isn't always a measure of how large a group of people you're managing. It's the impact of the role. So I think at times that can be one of the, you know, to be very open-minded. I think the other piece of advice, and we've done it on occasions, is if you can get an opportunity to be seconded out across into a private sector company or a department that's outside of the military, use that as a fantastic stepping stone, because that really does help, because you get to see, you know, a different working environment. And actually, you'll see that actually it's not that different in a lot of respects, but it's very different in certain other respects. And so if you did have an opportunity to step out on secondment for a period of time, because we know in the past we've done that successfully, it's a fantastic stepping stone. And I think that will help build your confidence well if you're concerned. So I think, Matt, you got your hand there.
Yeah, I think this is it's a really interesting question, and whoever asked it is, has sort of tweaked my concerns, because I'm still in this transition process. Arguably, I think the one area that I am now getting to grips with, but Rhiannon and others on the call might say I'm not, is you've got to understand the culture of the organisation you're going to, and what ultimately is the driver of that organisation. And it isn't going to be a single thing, but what you're leaving is a public sector which literally is a standing army. What you're going to is another employment, probably in the private sector. Those on this line are all in the private sector, that has a requirement to keep the business going. And how they do that is going to be different, whatever the business model is and what type of business they're in. But you need to work out and understand what makes it tick. In the same way as you grew up and understood the military and the bit of it that you were in and the particular tribe that you were in, you're joining a new tribe. It's just got different motivations. And that's, I'm learning that that's, you know, a really important thing to get under the skin of early, because that will determine how you use a non-hierarchical, non-linear, I use the term loosely, chain of command, to go about your day-to-day business to achieve success and benefit the organization. And that needs a bit of investment and a bit of time. It's quite hard to work that out before you leave, but you need to invest in it on arrival, is my view.
Thank you, Matt. That's very sound advice indeed. I'm conscious of time, so I suggest maybe we go to the last question before I come to each panelist for their closing thoughts. Craig, maybe we could start with you, and then John, will come to you as well. So for both of the businesses and the sectors that you're in, are there any particular roles, disciplines or departments that you see officers being best suited to? Craig.
Absolutely. So the greatest transition opportunity, in my opinion, within our business would obviously be to join our defence and security business, which is working very closely with organisations like DIO, D&S, Defence Digital, and other organisations within MOD to deliver new kit, to deliver supportability to the current equipment and infrastructure, because you've got that platform, domain knowledge that's so very important, and you can almost learn your trade in terms of the project management pieces around that. We have very clear competency matrices within each of those roles within our business. So I think that would be the most natural fit for most people. But again, we see huge success being had by people coming from previous careers as officers in the British Armed Forces, in requirements capture, in capability management with our client organisations, inside sales, strategic management, etc. There is literally it goes back to points that some of the other panelists on the call have been making throughout the day. Really, it's the attitude, it's the mindset, it's that ability to be focused on the deliverables and to be determined to get those things delivered properly. That it's all so common within people coming out of the armed forces. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense, thank you. And John, how about you? Any roles, disciplines, departments you see officers best suited to?
I think that there's always a sort of a stigma that they necessarily always need to go into man management type roles given their background, but I do feel that the sort of wider skill set that they do have, and I think the being able to deal with different challenges on a daily basis, the kind of from time to time frenetic environment they're involved with, I see a lot of opportunity, especially with our business. I've touched upon it already, but service management, program management, project management is the natural route, but it completely depends on the individual and where their key drivers are. I think, as I sort of pointed on, cyber's been a very sort of keen area that we're looking to develop individuals in this space with, and one we've had a lot of success with, looking at a lot of levels. And I think from my perspective, I'd just like to kind of say, I think, on sort of closing points from CGI, I think some of the key things to take away is use the community that you've got. You've got, a family effectively that's been through this process before of transitioning out and has now got real life experience. Those are individuals that you can really use to guide you. And I think a lot of individuals who are in that process of transitioning out don't realize the support network that they do have, and it's fundamental that you do lean upon that. And as Kevin was alluding to, the secondment piece is crucially important as well. So you get that exposure to how it would be working outside of a military environment. So obviously bits and pieces with DNS. We've obviously got iStar and Hereford. Things like JSOC for cyber as well, all really, really useful. And I think the sort of final point for myself would be, it's never too late to start planning that, transition out, find out what you actually want to go and do, and, take real advice about what you need in terms of attributes, and show that aptitude in that transitioning period to make sure you can achieve and be successful in a civvy role.
Fabulous, thank you, John. Well, that's got us started on the closing thoughts. So maybe Rhiannon, can we come to you? Any final comments or top tips for the audience today?
I think from my experience of recruiting in defence, and kind of we've got a huge mix between former military and commercial backgrounds. Don't undersell yourself is the biggest, simplest message, and just really look at the roles out there, pick what it is you're aiming for, and align your applications and your conversations to demonstrating what you can really offer and your value as best you can. And from the defence sector, it's the value of a defence and military background is huge. So if that's an area you're interested in, you'll find it a lot easier to sell yourself, to be honest.
Brilliant, thank you. Simon, can we come to you next?
Yeah. It is very much reflecting Rhiannon's comments. Go out there with all of the confidence that you have in yourself that's been instilled in you for many, many years. Working within the military and employment in the private sector is no different. A job is a job. There are plenty of challenges in your existing positions. There are plenty of challenges in the commercial world as well. But bring forward the confidence that's been instilled in you. Make sure that you're aligned with the cultures and the values of the organisation, because when you move into a commercial business, you really want to make sure that their goal is your goal. And as the military life is very much about teamwork, if you have that same teamwork focus within a private organisation, you'll get a much happier response from yourself, from your team, from your family, from your outside military life. That's pretty much all I can say, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Simon. Craig, any more pearls of wisdom from yourself?
Pearls of wisdom that haven't already been delivered by my colleagues here, John, Kevin, Rhiannon and Simon. Difficult one, but I mirror all those thoughts really. It's don't feel in any way, shape or form that you are lacking something that Civvy Street is going to be looking for. If anything, the experience and the way of working that you guys and girls bring to Civvy Street is far beyond that of somebody who's been working in industry in many cases, in my experience. So do have that confidence, do have a plan, do be prepared to flex on that plan in terms of understanding the level. Kevin talked before about entry level and making sure that you understand that, you know, you're not necessarily going to come in as a managing director or a CEO. You're going to have to work your way up there, but do have a plan, be flexible in that plan. And as my panelist colleagues today have already said, take advantage of the many experiences that you can get and the coaching that you can get through the Officers Association and other organisations. Take advantage of any work experience placement opportunities that will give you the ability to understand that landscape that you're hopefully going to go into when you do finish your service. And the very best of luck to you all. I'm hopeful that I will be coming into contact with some of you in the coming months.
Thanks, Craig. Kevin, final thoughts from yourself?
I think the guys have covered a lot of it. You know, confidence, be confident. Actually, as an employer, you know, we love recruiting from the military. There's lots of transferable skills. Be open-minded, and just recognise you're not the first to go through this transition. You know, Matt's described his experience, but there are hundreds and thousands of people who've done similar transition, who have got now hugely successful second careers, third careers. And, you know, I think that you'll see by the quality of the panelists here in terms of the organisations, you know, we value military, ex-military personnel because you bring skills to our business that makes us better. And we're not alone in the UK, right? There are lots of other employers out there as well who share similar views.
Fantastic, really positive. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for your presentation earlier. I know you couldn't hear me.
I'm sorry to everyone. That was
not a problem.
I work for technology, and that's very embarrassing.
It happens. So Matt, finally, you know, thank you once again for Elbit for being our headline sponsors today. You know, really pleased to have you supporting us. So can I ask for your final thoughts before I close this session?
Yeah, so everybody's covered it, but I would add just two things. Maintain your values that you've acquired through however long your officer service has been. They are vital to what your future employer requires. And my personal advice is to remain teachable. You will need to learn when you join your new organisation. And that's a really important skill that you will require. Huge thanks to the Officers Association and all those that have spoken. From my perspective, I've only been out for a little over a year, and it's also encouraging to hear a similar message that I'm experiencing in Elbit, in other companies looking to recruit from the service leaver. So good times and good opportunities for people that maintain all that has been advised of them this afternoon. Thank you.
Fabulous. Well, thanks all. Some really excellent and practical tips there as well. So thank you again, all of you, for joining us and for sharing your insights. It's been really great. So before I close this event, I would just like to introduce Laura Blair. So Laura, if you haven't met her already, served for 12 years, leaving as a major. So Laura then went on to work in the charity sector, then as head of business development for a learning and development company, and then retrained as a teacher, reaching assistant principal, and then has come to work at the OA as our employment director. So Laura, I will hand over to you before we close the event today.
Esme, thank you. So we're just about to wrap up what has been a really informative event. Thank you to all of our speakers for sharing their expert insights, and to you, the participants. I hope you found it really useful in terms of maximising your resettlement plan and supporting your knowledge of the current jobs market. And again, thank you to our headline sponsor, Elbit Systems UK. The key takeaway today is that your skill set matters. It matters a great deal, and it's really important to the future of the UK economy. And there are ever-growing numbers of employers recognising the value of military experience and what it can bring to their business. It's fair to say the world is a really complex place at the minute, but your skill set has the ability to take advantage of this. Over the last year, we at the Officers Association have seen employers look on in awe and admiration at the military's exceptional response to COVID. Companies that the Officers Association are speaking to want a resilient talent pipeline who can adapt to ever-changing times, which is exactly why you, officer talent, are so perfectly positioned, I would argue, to step into the current industry environment. We are reaching out to more and more employers and building strong links for you. They continue to approach us, and we continue to go out and source quality employment opportunities for you. And we're targeting sectors of growth such as tech, cyber, defence, logistics, telecommunications, financial services, consultancy, to name but a few. Our jobs board is also growing with quality roles, and we're focused on bringing a wide range in for you. You've seen some examples from employers who are hiring and currently posting with us, and the jobs board has live vacancies from companies at the minute such as Mace, the Cabinet Office, Thames Water, CGI, the Worshipful Company of Turners, Intrado, Child Health International, Bank of England, Arriva, Braze, and Elbit Systems UK, and that's just to name a few. So to access our jobs board, all you need to do is register via our website. The Officers Association also continues to enhance our services to you in 2021 and beyond. We have developed a new employment platform, which, as it builds and it develops throughout the rest of this year, it will allow you the ability to network and engage with other officers, industry experts, and employers. It will also provide you with access to quality employer profile pages, offering up-to-date industry intelligence with the opportunity to participate in webinars and insight days. And we're really focused on delivering more insight days for you in 2021 and beyond, as we recognise that this is probably one of the best ways for you and employers to directly connect with each other. And as we come out of COVID, we'll also be running a series of face-to-face networking events for you. Hopefully, Christmas drinks will be the first one of those. I'd also say that by accessing our employment services, you will gain direct access to our really experienced career consultants. And I've been through them myself when I left the military. They have really deep industry knowledge and will assist you in transitioning and translating your skill set. They have sat on a variety of recruitment panels from multinational companies. They've got first-hand experience of both the military and the commercial world, and the expertise to coach you in terms of how best to network, provide you with interview skills, expert CV advice, and how to use LinkedIn as a really powerful tool to raise your profile. And you can book a one-to-one appointment with them. You just need to be registered with us via the website. So in summary, I hope you've enjoyed the employment forum. I hope you've gained a great deal from it. My contact details should be going into the chat box now. Feel free to reach out directly to me. I am happy to chat in detail to anyone about the various employers that we're currently engaged with and some of the roles we have coming up. And actually, I spoke to 2 officer job seekers this morning and connected them directly in to a global engineering company who are actively hiring through us. The last thing I'd say is we are constantly after feedback from you so that we can keep continuing to improve the services we offer. So please do feedback to us after this event. I'd also say that we're running another officer employment forum like this. It's on the 4th of November, and more details will follow on that shortly. So to finally close, do register with us if you haven't already. Make use of our jobs board, make use of our career consultants, tell your fellow officers about us, use our network contact list, and be really, really confident that companies in stable and certainly emerging industries want to hire officer talent now and want to hire it in the future. Thank you very much. Esme, over to you again to finally close.
Fabulous, thanks Laura. So just a final thanks to all of our speakers today, everyone in the audience who's tuned in and shared your questions, to my colleague Chris for sharing the hosting, and Victoria, who I know none of you see, but she does absolutely fantastic work looking after all the tech today, and it's really, really appreciated. So, I mean, it's been a pleasure hosting. I hope this event has kind of given you a taste of the work we do at the OA to connect you with employers who are seeking talent, and definitely get in touch, obviously, if there's anything that we can do to support you on your journey. On that note, I will draw this event to a close and hope everyone enjoys the rest of their afternoon. Thanks all.